I'm Susan Lennart, and I'm a silversmith. I've been a silversmith for over 35 years. I have, in all these years, I've done so many different markets and so many different things with my jewelry work behind me. I have worked with fashion stylists to dress people in Hollywood. I've done pieces for Coachella. I have done fashion lines of jewelry, which are interesting in a whole different way. I've done museum performance pieces. I've done pieces in the Smithsonian, and actually worked with dance performances with my work. There's so many different markets and so many different things that you can do in this art world. And for me, it's in this art world of building jewelry, which is accessories. I've also done a lot of fashion runway and been on a lot of fashion publications. So if you're interested in being a silversmith, this is what I want to talk about here today. Sometimes you never get to meet the person behind the scenes, and connect to their work. So for me, it's like my work and my philosophy, I want to show you the real practical side of my studio space and behind the scenes rather than talk about the type of work that I do today. So I always through life, I like to make things as simple and streamlined as possible. Life is so fun. Building lines and building bodies of work and doing all this work in collaborations is so much fun. So for me, the simpler I can keep my life, the cleaner I can keep my life, the more opportunities I can engage in and not waste a lot of my energy. So I'm like right to the point. So I want to talk a little bit about my philosophies in soldering and a toolkit. So I don't know if you guys know, but I put together a couple of years ago, I call it the Nomadic Tool Set. You literally can set up as a silversmith for $250 or less. And I set that tool set up because I traveled all over the world and taught silversmithing all over the world. And I had to be ready, like I was in the deserts of Morocco teaching silversmithing. I have been in Indonesia in these darker spaces and, without a lot of tools, Mexico, Paris, Europe, all over in these remote places where I found all across the world, there's one thing that we have in common is butane gas. This is the most common. You can actually find this at the Walmarts around the world or at hardware stores. It's pretty easy to find. So as I go through things, I'm going to bring you guys closer up in a minute when I finish talking about this subject. But this actually is in one of my, there's a free silversmithing workshop, a beginning workshop that I really go through a lot of the tools. And I show a lot of this torch here. I actually stopped using my bigger torches, which I love my acetylene, but I stopped using those for 3 years. And I built everything from this little inexpensive torch right here because I love the challenge, I'm an artist. I studied at the Art Institute of Chicago. So even though I'm a silversmith, I always love these challenges that I can give myself as an artist. I've been in this field for so long. So what I want to talk about is my space. I have a really big, beautiful workshop space, I think 1,500 square feet. But really, I spend most of my time in this little bitty, like 7 by 12, 8 by 12 space, from end to end. And this is where I have everything to move around and get to. Now, remember, I'm in my studio and I still try to keep things simple. I still try to keep my work simple, although I do step up my game recently from the Nomadic tool set. The Nomadic tool set is the torch I showed you. And I'll show you closer up. There are different tools and a whole beautiful setup. But in my studio, I have things completely set up where I can get around very, very quickly. This is my Anvil. I work with a super nice Anvil in my studio. I have different things set up so I can access them easily. I bought this Anvil years and years ago before it became the popular thing to do, But you can start with such a small Anvil. I worked with a tiny little railroad tie for years and years. So, that's the Nomadic Toolkit. You can jump over to the Nomadic Toolkit if you like. So in my studio, I do all my work on this Anvil right here. I can get a lot of gorgeous forging done. I like keeping, when I'm not using it, it's important to keep it covered so it doesn't rust out on you, keep it oiled, all this type of care like that. Over here is where I do my jeweler saw, and I'll give you guys a closer look in a little bit, but this is where I'm actually working for cutouts with my jeweler saw. This is my beautiful tank of acetylene and my work area. I am so much of the time right here, really working with my tools, my solders, which I'll show you again. And I've got my drills right here, so everything is right in hand. When I walk over to this area here, this is another bench that I do a lot of my annealing on. I know it's easier to see. I just cleaned it off recently. I do want to say, when you walk into a working artist studio, you're going to see a big mess. I mean, everything, And I also want to show you, more towards the end, I'm going to show you the trays that I work off of, that I have my inspiration. How I work and pull tools and just bring things together. It's really fun. It's really important to have inspirational stones and pieces or objects. I like to show putting your talisman objects together. And once in a while, for me, it's like I don't need to necessarily change up my tools, but I love the inspirational pieces. So this area over here, which I'll show you closer up, I know you can't see it right now, but this is my, where I polish, and where I clean, and where I pickle, and where I liberate sulfur. All my finish work is done in this little area here. I just really have a lot of, really a nice way to work. I've got all my drawers and my extra supplies right in here. So I'm going to have you guys come closer up. These are all my tools that I could choose from through, just in case I need them. There's a lot of like bracelet mandrels I have up here. I had a friend of mine build me this set right here because it's just so easy to access all of it, and to be able to get around this area. So it's really nice. I have all my extra tools when I need bracelet mandrels and ring mandrels and calipers and measuring stones. These I can keep all up here. I'm in the Cleveland area today. It's like really kind of rainy and wet. So my problem, what I have to worry about, is working against rust. I actually have to keep my tools oiled and keep them in good shape so they can perform well for me. Another thing I have to do is these are my tools too. My hands are my tools. I have to keep my hands and my body in good shape so I can perform and do the work that I want to do. So that's why you're going to see in this whole program here that I have, it's the whole program that I have here, it is really made for, I do ergonomics in here. I do, just ways to keep your body in shape so you can be the best artist that you possibly can. How to keep your tools in good shape to be the best artist that you possibly can. I give business tips from my many businesses and companies that I've had, and so many different things. So I'm going to have you guys come in a little closer and I'll show you around my bench. This is my studio bench where I spend 90% of my time. So I have a whole different setup when I'm here in my studio than the Nomadic tool. You can get everything that you need from the Nomadic tool from my book that's on Amazon called Intentional Metalsmithing. But in the studio, I do a little different style. I just started this because it's it's just easier and more comfortable. So the things that I spent money on, the cost is more than the $200, $350 Nomadic Toolkit, but that would be a great start for anyone who just wants to be a silversmith and get started. These are my Optivisors. Love them. They're from Craft Optics, and I spend all of my time in here. These are readers because I use readers, but you can get any prescription you want to in here, and then I've got my magnifying glasses and a light. So when I want to get into my jeweler saw, soldering, anytime I do any type of close-up work, I put these on. The work has to be done so beautifully. So even through your magnifiers, if it looks 90% perfect. When you take off your magnifiers, it's going to look 100% perfect, you know, but we always strive for that 100%, right? So this actually is my area that I'm doing all my soldering on. This is where I have all of my soldering. And I like to solder still. I have them in these nice glass containers. I have an easy, which is used last, a medium solder, and these are all different melting points. So when I'm soldering, you start with the hard, you work your way down to medium, and then you work your way down again to an easy. And there's even a super easy. So that's kind of the way we're doing things here. This is a drawer that I just found and pulled out, and of course, you know, I ended up just really laying out my gems, laying out all my pieces that I want to work presently on. I kind of laid out a few things here that I'm working on. You know, there's a lot more work that has to be done, but these were just pieces that I got started and didn't finish. And then I have, this is a piece that I am working on that I think is going to be so beautiful when it's done. I always love working with gems. So this is one currently. It's with a tourmaline. I just want this to be beautiful and sexy and royalty around your neck. You know, it's like I love putting together looks like this. I do jewelry classes in my studio, and one of the things I do is I like working with this really fine gauge wire. So this is some of the pieces that I've been working on. Is just, there's a class that I like to teach techniques and concepts in my studio. So I'm going to take these off so I can show you the real stuff. Okay. So this is my flux. There's other films in here. If you guys pop back to any of my, there's 2 beginning silversmithing workshops that you can take here. They're each, I think they're each an hour long. It gives you really the details of all of the tools, how I use them, gives you so much detail. Here, I just want to show you just my studio bench and the way that I really work during the day. I put things up here. This is actually a rotating, it's a rotating board under here. This is, I used to solder on here, but it makes it hard. So I love it because I can move this any direction at any time and it works out really well. So I have my screen where I work on pieces right here. And what I do is I will put my solders, if you see, I've got my solders in each corner. This actually is a hard solder. This is an easy. I'll write my words right on my board like this, hard. And then I have it on the side here. This one says easy. And this, I put little piles of easy. I think, is it medium under here? I'm out of medium at the time, but this is my medium. So this is why I really like working on these bigger boards when I'm in my studio. This is my torch. This is my acetylene tank. You guys, it's just a little bit out of the picture from here, but this is super hot and I can get in super quick. So when I'm in my studio, this is the torch that I use. You turn this off every night and then I can adjust it. And this is usually about the flame that I use, if you guys can see it. Oh my gosh, such a beautiful flame. I can get in and out quick. That's my, and I have a nice place for it right here. And nice and safe. I've got really good ventilation in here. When you're using acetylene, you really want to make sure that you have a good studio with a hard floor where you have really good ventilation, or you have a tank that's pulling out, you know, you have a fumigator that's pulling all of the fumes out. Here I have a really airy studio space. I usually have a fan on that just blows everything straight through. If you are in your house and you do not have, you know, a ventilation, you really want to use that butane torch that I talk so much about. It's so good for you. Acetylene gases, they actually rise up. So it's in your, you know, you could breathe them unless they're being blown out, and they create carbon monoxide. The butane flame, it's just so good for like indoor and small spaces because butane flames will sink down to the ground, you know, just the fume. So you're not breathing it in. So you don't have to worry as much about ventilation as you do when you get into these bigger tanks, you know, and of these bigger tanks of just different gases. Okay, so You know, when I'm soldering, sometimes I'll just put them right up here. I work right on, this one has a stone in it, but I work right on a frame right here. You know, my flame is small enough where I can get in and just really work on, of course I wouldn't work on it with the stone in there. You cannot work with the stone. But you know, it's small enough where I can just get in and work right here. And these are my absolutely, here is the great thing about it. This with a marker, what I do with my marker right here. Okay. So these are my main tools that I work with right here, literally, still in my studio. This is from the Nomadic tool set, and it is also from my intentional metalsmithing book. This is such a good book. This is on Amazon, and I'll put a link down below so you guys can grab it if you wanted to. But this shows the whole Nomadic Toolkit, really shows a lot of the work that is being done. And if you don't have this, it's an amazing studio book with the whole thing. If you like visual, if you need the visuals. So these actually are my pick that I need to pick up solder, large tweezers that I love so much, a marker, a paintbrush, and then these are two brushes that help clean your metal when you get it to a good point. And oh my gosh, these are my most important hand tools that I have. Secondary are my hand tools I have all my tools right here, my main tools. Secondary are, you know, I really like these pliers that do not, there's 3 of them that I just love. And then this is my snips that I use right here. These are my main tools that I use. So it's a needle nose. These are actually the Revere pliers, and I use these 3. One is a needle nose, round. Love these for wire, for just different things I'm working. These are the tapered chain nose. The Revere, this comes in a set too. And then these are the regular chain nose pliers that are nice. I have a little clip in here, little video that I think you guys would love. I show taking apart the springs on these type of tools to make them so comfortable. You can see there's no springs on here. They're a good size. Sometimes for women, they make pliers that are tiny and small, and they're not really good for your wrists or your hands. So this is so comfortable. You can see I'm not hardly using my wrists at all when I open and close and work with these type of pliers. When you have springs on here, you're literally working against the spring. So I do have, you know, I'll put this up next, but I do have how you can buy an inexpensive pair of pliers and just take them apart, take the springs out of there, and you'll be all set. So that being said, and then I have some good snips that I work with. And these really can cut through. I work with a lot of heavy gauge wires too. These can cut through a 12 gauge, these can cut through an 8 gauge, and then down to, you know, a very, very thin, like 20 gauge. When I start getting into tiny gauges, I like using these Lindstrom pliers, because these Lindstrom I just use for like a 20 gauge, 24. They cut them so beautifully, cut your wire so beautifully, and you'll get really nice cuts. That's this area. One of the things, part of my tools I also have are locking pliers, because when I'm soldering, I can hook up, you know, I can hook things up. I can hook things up certain ways. I can connect things. I can hold, if I want to solder this down, Lord knows why, but if I wanted to solder something like this, I've got my locking pliers so my hand does not get tired and I can get into areas like that. I love having my spray on hand. This is actually still the flux. This is flux, this is flux. If you guys have any questions about these materials, just pop over to the beginning silversmithing courses that I have here on my channel. And this actually, if I have to spray, you know, sometimes I'm in there and my work is hot, I'll just go ahead and spritz on the flux instead of painting it on with my paintbrush. And that works really well. You guys saw that I have a striker. You know, there's actually easier strikers than this. This is just what I have at this time. This is a rustic remote. But I have this, and this I used to strike and start my flame on my acetylene torch. This, you know, and you can actually use all different size nozzles. Some people change the nozzles. There's 1, 2, and 3. This is a 2. Some people like to change these around. I just keep the same one and I adjust. I don't like all the fussiness in between. Remember, I talked about my whole philosophy is really keeping things simple. When you start going out and buying all these really fancy tools, you're literally working against yourself, because when you have your simplistic remote tools, you have to use your mind and your brain to come up with some really interesting techniques, right? To come up with interesting looks and interesting pieces, where if you are, get this in the camera. If you are, if you're buying these typical stamps or typical dies that everybody has and ways to make these dies, it's like your work becomes more and more like everyone else's. And it's really important to try to, carve out your own style, be unique with things. So I talk a lot about that in all of my work that I do. And then, just files and different pieces I have around my studio space. But if I go a little bit, so this table I really like to work on getting my bezels set into pieces. I think here I might have pieces started, my bezel wire here. And when you come down into this area here, I'll just step over and I have got my drill. Let me stand on this side. Whoop. I've got my drill where I can drill right here. I've got my jeweler saw right here. I bring over my chair. I've got a tall chair that I can adjust. I wanted this area in a nice open area where I can get in and work my jeweler saw right here and just really be comfortable. I don't, I do a lot of soldering in this area down here, but that's, I like being in this nice little cozy area. I've got my gas against the wall, but when I get into soldering and hammering, this is my anvil here, and I really like having a nice, beautiful setup where I can have a lot of room around me to get in here, do forging and setting rivets and, all types of different pieces like that. So here's I keep it covered with leather. You really want to try to keep this as clean and oiled as possible, your surface, so it doesn't do any damage on your metal. I love this anvil. I bought this 30 years ago, I bet, and it just really works out well for me. And then I have my dies and different pieces like this around. What else do I want to show you guys here? Oh, maybe I'll just show you. This is a little bit of a mess behind here, but this actually is a nice wall where I can, my metal is a little bit messy, but this is where I keep all of my wire. I work a lot with wire. I've got my drawers filled with sheet metal when I need it, just different things that I need in here. So nice and compact. So this is a great area. Now, when I'm cleaning things, so this is where I do my work, and let me show you my area where I clean things. That is over this way. Voila, this area right here. This is my pickle pot, which I talk a lot about. And this is where I do my liver of sulfur. So this, when I turn these on every day, I just keep them at low and I have them across the room, and I use these, they're actually plastic screens that I use for these pieces. I know it looks messy. Isn't it crazy how messy it is when this actually is the area that does all the cleaning? So yeah, so this is where all the cleaning is done. I have my water here where I'm quenching and doing pieces like that. So this is my jeweler's wheel. This is where I do all my polishing and cutting. This actually I love using on my wheel. This is a Scotch-Brite wheel, and this actually will take off any type of, just little burrs on the edges, or if I have to like light grind, very, very light grind, to sharpen something up, get rid of sharp edges for any reason if I have them. This is my wheel that polishes here. There's different bobbing compounds that I love, but this is called a Zip, and I like this one a lot. And This one, when it's turned on, I have a good light system here too. See? Little dirty, but this is a vacuum system. So it picks up any debris that comes out. It really vacuums it all up inside of here. So here, and you know, that's just kind of, this is my area that I have. I love it. Over here is where I do some of my annealing in this area. It's just another little bench that I have. It's super cleaned off right now, guys. So this bench is nice and clean. I do my annealing here. This is this secondary torch. I'm actually teaching a workshop in here that is a lot of wire, beautiful wire caging and wire type of work. So these type of torches work out really well. This is also a Nomadic torch that I really would recommend. And I do a review of this torch if you want to pop over to a review. Here's where I keep my scrap silver. Look at that. I'm waiting for silver to go up pretty high in price, and then I'm going to scrap all my silver and get it in there and turn it in. So I have my green plants in here to just keep the air flowing and nice and good, and plus it's so beautiful to look at. So that's pretty much it in my little bitty 7.5 by 12 space. And I do want to show you just a couple little collections of gems and things that I have put together. And I'll show you how I just kind of pick and get started from my day. I just want to show you my trays in general. I have got loads and loads of trays, so I just am bringing up a couple of them. But this actually is some of my finished pieces that I have on here, you know, just some of my hollow forms that I've created. Sometimes I come into my studio and I create like a whole pile, and some of these are a couple of years old. You know, sometimes I come in and I just do a whole lot of work, and then, you know, when I'm in this real building kind of mode, and then some days I go back and I construct them and get into my right brain and really put together jewelry. These are some fossils that I actually picked up when I was in Morocco, and I love putting this into my work. These I bought from this man in Alaska, who literally has the right to pick these fossils up and buy these. Oh my gosh, it's my fossils mixed with gems is what I love. This is in a bag because this is a shape that I'm interested in working on in the near future, so I want to highlight this and put it to the side. And here's some geodes and Roman era glass. These are things that really inspire me. So my next tray, oh my gosh, I've got trays and trays. My next tray, this is the tray that I, oh my gosh, that I just bought these beautiful tourmaline. I have beautiful, beautiful gems on my website. I'm planning on using all these, but I have beautiful gems. What I do is I buy gems in huge quantities and stones, and then I can resell them at $4 a carat. So you guys, if you want to, jump into my store, and you know, these are things that I'm really looking to get inspired from and start doing some bezel work on. Here's more fossils, tiny little fossils. So all these pieces I have sitting here, waiting for me, ready to go. That's gonna be a fun one. This is another tray, and you can see I just actually use cookie sheets, and I have a paper towel under them. Keeps all my gems beautiful and nice. I keep them covered with a paper towel. Gems in your studio, it's so important to totally respect them. You know, I try not to put my hands all over them, but these are polished so beautiful. I've got lapis. I started working a little smaller and in multiples, but I do sometimes do some really large work too. So these are what's really inspiring me to work with lately, these colors. And how about this for a tray? I'm actually building, many people know me for all this fringe jewelry work that I do. So this is like a little collection that's waiting to be assembled right here. Bracelets that are fringes, different materials that I love using in my work. These are also from pieces from Alaska and different crystals I have. Oh my gosh, it's like, this is the trays that get me very, very excited. And then one last tray here today, even though I have multiples. This one's just a little messy, kind of a little bit forgotten things that I built, and I'm trying to decide how I'm moving forward on them, but still really, really fun to see. You know, here's like a Roman era glass piece that is gonna be pretty amazing to put into a piece of jewelry. That's about it with my collections. So if you're interested in an excellent book, this is my book that I wrote a few years ago. This is all the basics and foundation of soldering, simple soldering, like my philosophy of right to the core, you know, of keeping things simple and really expanding your creativity in that way. And that's really what this book is about. I also had a number of students that took a course along with it, and their work is included. But this, you know, I show like a Nomadic Toolkit of like $350 where you can go anywhere in the world and be able to, you know, on a vacation, set up and do your silversmithing, which I love because I teach all over the world. And, you know, this actually has some of my favorite pieces that I've used for, you know, just all different reasons. This is my other book that, you know, this was from like 12, 15 years ago. This book was for my industry, and it is a book on cold joins called Making Connections. You can only find Intentional Metalsmithing, my silversmithing book, you can find on Amazon right now. And there's a link below. And this book here is on Amazon, but there's, you know, it's actually out of print now. I actually published this myself years ago, and I did 20,000 copies. So sometimes, you know, it really is the museum quality, and I had a huge body of work, and it really is all on using cold joins throughout your work. So with this book, I won an award and had it reviewed by the president of the Goldsmith Society and everything. So there was a lot of good things to do with this. At some point, riveting and all these cold joints are really getting recycled and coming back into fashion again, you know, so it might be kind of fun just to get. It was really fun to do this type of work. So anyway, if you guys are looking for a little bit more in education, those books would be great. Also have some different videos in here that you should start with if you're looking to be a silversmith. Okay, enjoy.